Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Northern Miner Podcast, and I am your host, Matthew Keevil. And happy PDAC week. Hope everyone's having a good time out there in balmy Toronto. Here it's been breaking 10 degrees, rain instead of snow. Cannot complain about that. But I hope everyone's having a great time walking the floor of the conference. If you happen to be in the neighborhood, please do stop by booth 3318 in the Investors Exchange to check out the Northern Miner booth. Say hi to our team. Pick up a copy of our absolutely monstrous 44-page PDAC special, which is packed full of some awesome stuff, including the exclusive interview I had with Lucas Lundeen, which we mentioned last week. But I do have a really good episode fired up here for those walking the floor who want something to tune into. Lesley will be dropping in for an all-new episode of the Geology Corner, wherein we will explore absurd and insane mining promotions, including the infamous company who attempted to mine gold from the Canadian Mint in the Ottawa River, mining in sewage, and asteroid mining. It's going to be a pretty awesome Geology Corner. We have a good time talking about some of these more, as I said, absurd sort of mining deals we've heard about over the past couple decades. So Lesley will be dropping in. It's kind of one of our famous top 5, or I think it's top 4 this week lists, but those are always fun. So we're looking forward to that. I also have a bit of audio from an interview I did with the president of Otis Gold, which is advancing the Kilgore gold deposit in Idaho, Craig Lindsay. We talk briefly about their 2016 exploration program, but maybe more importantly, they recently had a $5 million investment by Agnico Eagle via a private placement at around 30 cents a share. So Agnico now owns just shy of 10% of Otis Gold, and which is, we've talked a lot about this new business model. I shouldn't say new, returning business model, wherein majors and intermediate producers are taking equity stakes in earlier stage juniors. We've seen a lot of it with companies like Nighthawk Gold or in Resources. We've seen it up in the Yukon with Gold Corp, most recently with Triumph Gold, which was formerly Northern Free Gold. We've seen quite a bit of this activity going on where majors are sort of trying to get earlier stage footholds via equity placements in district scale opportunities. This has been especially true in the gold space. So I had a chance to sit down with Craig from Otis Gold, and I'll run about 5 minutes where he talks about their 2016 exploration program at their Kilgore property, and also the Agnico investment and sort of what that means for the company. But before we do crack into our content, we will briefly explore a little bit of macro this week, just to get you situated as you peruse the floor of PDAC for promising investment opportunities. So gold today was trading at $1,225.50 per ounce. Silver is trading at $17.80 per ounce. Copper was at $2.66 per pound, while West Texas Intermediate oil was at $53.18 per barrel at the time of recording. In gold news, on Friday, Federal Chair Janet Yellen reinforced expectations that the U.S. Central Bank would raise interest rates later this month. Yellen said last week that the Federal Reserve was set to lift benchmark U.S. interest rates, provided the jobs and inflation data held up. These comments were seen as cementing plans for a rate hike at the federal meeting March 14th and 15th. For the first time in over a week, physical gold ETFs were down 317,000 ounces on Friday. Meanwhile, in base and industrial news, base metal prices are down this morning after this week's National People's Congress NPC meeting in China on Sunday, March 5th, that drove concerns about a lower Chinese GDP growth target of 6.5%. That's down modestly from last year's actual GDP growth rate, which itself was a 25-year low. This has clearly impacted base metal sentiments, though on the supply side, we should note, as we've been following along, the potential strikes at BHP's Escondida mine, and also the ongoing situation with Freeport-McMoRan in Indonesia at his Grasberg operation. Those two mines represent 10% roughly of global copper supply. So this we are poised to see possibly a tipping point. The copper market could be in its first deficit position since roughly 2010. So we'll keep our eyes on that. The more bullish case on copper is clearly on the supply side. So we'll keep our eyes open as far as the various labor disputes and also socio-political challenges that some of these base metal companies are currently facing. But without further ado, I think we should crack into Lesley's rather humorous Geology Corner this week. This one's a blast. So as I said, we are going to be discussing a few rather absurd mining deals that have come across our desk. Let's crack into it, and I'll see you on the other side to introduce Craig Lindsay of Otis Gold for a few comments on his Kilgore deposit and a recent investment by Agnico Eagle.
Welcome to the Geology Corner.
The Geology Corner.
Yes, cool. I'm Lesley Stokes and got Matthew Keeble.
And I guess this is our PDAC edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's going to be running on the Monday of PDAC. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody from Vancouver.
Yeah, hello everybody on the floor. I hear you're getting unseasonably warm weather in Toronto this PDAC, which is not normal. So, anyways, have fun at PDAC. We're going to be
here. I'm going to be in Florida.
Oh yeah, you're going on vacation. I will be prowling around the empty streets of Vancouver. House Street will be barren, and it will just be poor Matt walking around forlornly. Looking for someone to interview.
Just flag, if you see him, just flag him down and give him a hug.
Yeah, give me a hug. I'll be really depressed. But please do stop by our booth over at PDAC. Say hi to everybody over there. We'll have Salma, Trish. Everybody will have all hands on deck, I think, will be there. I think Adrian's in town, our social media manager, I believe. All right. And everybody should be down on the floor of the show, so do say hello and pick up a version or an edition of our massive PDAC paper. It's 44 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like almost as long as my thesis. So congratulations everybody who wrote into that. We did get it done, and it's a pretty nice issue. So stop by, pick one up at the booth. But I've done enough promotion, I think, so we could probably get into the Geology Corner.
The Geology Corner. Well, I thought anyone who has ever attended PDAC in Toronto has seen their share of unusual projects. So I thought that in this week's Geology podcast, I'd discuss some of the most unusual to downright absurd projects that have ever hit the news wires.
Okay.
So I'm going to be talking about a failed attempt at using nuclear bombs from mining in the 60s. We're going to throw asteroid mining into a different orbit. We're going to discuss problems and rewards for recovering metals out of human sewage. And we're going to nostalgize about a company's claim that gold rests at the bottom of the Ottawa River below Parliament Hill.
I remember that one. That is quite infamous.
Well, let's start with that one. So in 1995, a company called JAG Mines announced its intention to dredge the Ottawa River beneath Parliament Hill, claiming that there were about 80 tons of silver, 35 tons gold, and however many tons of platinoids in the sediment. So how did it get there? They said that the refinery tailings from the Royal Canadian Mint, which is a 99-year-old riverfront sort of refinery, accidentally flushed the precious metals through the Mint's outflow pipe during the plant's first 60 years of operation. So to calculate the resource, this company, which was pretty much a trio of Ottawa investors, used historical records from the Mint that engaged the difference between the amount of metal going into the refinery and the amount of metal that was going out. This was life before BREX and 43101 reporting.
Yeah, that's how they used to get
Clearly.
it done. Yeah.
So the story created such a big buzz in the news world. And Parliament Hill's River of Gold made headlines in Maclean's and Wall Street Journal. I think it even went into Bloomberg. And they said that for just an $8 million investment, they could recover $1.2 billion worth of metal.
That sounds really believable.
So believable. Of course, their plan was completely kiboshed when questions about whether the outflow pipe, and hence the gold, even existed in the first place. Representatives from the Canadian Mint were quoted as saying, "They can look at our blueprints if you like, but there's no pipe."
This was publicly listed, right?
Yeah, this is a publicly listed company.
I do remember this.
So, of course, the firm and its proposal soon faded away into history, and the notion of gold at the bottom of the Ottawa River was never really discussed again.
Somebody must have checked it out.
I know.
Yeah, like somebody went down there with
In fact, I want to look at the Mint's blueprints because, I mean, what kind of world was that back in the day when the Canadian Mint would say, "Look at our blueprints"?
Yeah,
it'd be like finding all the like little tunnels and
just check it out. Yeah. That's I'm sure somebody. That's like a treasure. That's like publicly listing a treasure map.
Yeah,
that is what like it was like. I know where there's this sunken gold.
You can't even have videos in gold pouring rooms or like
that's
cameras.
Right. Yeah,
you can't even take photos, let alone look at blueprints of it. But
Yeah.
another great idea, well, not really great idea, but definitely failed in a big way. At the peak of the atomic age in the 1970s, the United States federal government initiated Project Plowshare, which was an experimental test run at using atomic bombs for quote-unquote peaceful construction purposes as their attempt to sway public fears about nuclear technology and promote the acceptance of nuclear weapons.
So this is about replacing dynamite essentially
with nuclear
small scale nuclear
bombs.
armaments.
Totally.
Sweet.
So they proposed that nuclear explosives, I'm going to crack up while reading this. So they proposed that nuclear explosives could help widen the Panama Canal, cut paths through mountains, basically cut through mountains.
I don't doubt it.
Connect inland river systems, and other proposals involved blasting underground caverns for water, for natural gas, for petroleum storage. So the list just went on. One of the first Plowshare nuclear blast cratering proposals that came close to being carried out was Project Chariot, I can't pronounce it, which would have used several hydrogen bombs to create an artificial harbor at Cape Thompson in Alaska.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're worried about mining. They're gonna bomb the freaking heck out of your area there.
It's so good. It gets better. So the largest proof of concept test was conducted in 1962 in southern Nevada. It was called the Sedan. The shot displaced more than 12 million tons of soil and resulted in a radioactive cloud that rose to an altitude of 12,000 feet. That's 3.7 kilometers above the Earth.
Great success.
The radioactive dust plume headed northeast and east towards the Mississippi River. Needless to say, after several failed attempts and spending $770 million on this project, all of them,
essentially commercializing nuclear bombs.
Yeah,
that's what they were doing.
The Operation Plowshare, well, it ended quietly in 1977.
Which is fair, though I'm assuming they did succeed in making very large holes.
Yes.
In places.
Yeah, in big ways, and a lot of the material is buried and will never be.
The efficacy of actually making the holes was never in question. It was what happens after.
Yeah.
Is problem. I would imagine is the problem.
There was radioactive gas that was sprayed, and it was just really ugly.
Well, yeah, it's. Gotta wonder what they were thinking. This is back in the 60s. That's when smoking cigarettes was good for you.
I know.
Seatbelts.
Makes me wonder what is we're
wimps.
doing today. We're clearly not quite all there. But anyway, so
that's
story.
I didn't know that story actually. That's quite funny. I had heard
Operation
about
Plowshare.
some commercialization of nuclear armaments in terms of construction, but I never heard the details on some of that stuff.
Can you imagine trying to do that today? Seriously, everyone, it cracks me up.
Yeah.
I'm dying laughing. Okay, so the next one. There's gold, and then there are sewage treatment.
Oh, I've heard of this one too.
Everyone's probably heard of it. In the States, about 3.5 million tons of sewage per year is used as fertilizer on farms and forests, while the other half is incinerated or sent over to landfills. But according to researchers, that waste may still be really valuable. So over the past decade, research has indicated that there's potentially $280 worth of gold, silver, platinum, and palladium in each ton of sewage waste. And that is, according to my calculations, $1 billion of value being thrown down the drain each year. Literally
in sewage.
And figuratively.
Yeah.
So an 8-year study by the USGS found 28 milligrams of silver, 638 milligrams of copper, 49 milligrams of vanadium, and less than 1 milligram of gold per kilogram of waste. So I didn't actually convert that for everybody, but I'm sure you're going to.
Yeah, you could work it out.
You could figure it out.
So they're mining poop.
They're mining poop, but it's actually from a whole whack of other things. Mm-hmm. So it comes from food products, dental fixtures, medical facilities.
Dental fixtures?
Yeah, because you have stuff in your teeth.
Yeah, oh no, I know.
And you're brushing your teeth and whatever.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the pipes and everything that these fluids have to go through. So it's a huge combination of sources. Silver, of course, is really quite common because of these days people use it for antibacterial purposes, like silver spray and whatever. So in 2009, actually, a sewage treatment center in northwest Tokyo recovered more than 1,800 grams of gold per ton of ash recorded from incinerated sludge during its first year of operation. And the high concentrate is thought to be attributed to equipment manufacturers using the precious metal in the neighborhood because it was like high industrialized sort of area.
Yeah.
Now, how one removes a metal out of the sludge can pose a bit of an issue, and it's kind of interesting. In Tokyo, they had incinerated their sewage, but in the US, you don't really want to do that because they use that for fertilizer. So researchers are trying to take a two-pronged approach. They want to extract the metals that are valuable, while at the same time extract the metals that reduce fertilizer's quality, such as cadmium. So it's a bit of a win-win situation.
Yeah.
So one idea that's being pitched around is to supplement the sewage with metal-loving microbes.
Oh, there you
Right,
go.
which in turn scavenge and harvest all the metal, and then you can just harvest them when you're done.
Who's doing this?
I have no idea.
Like the governments or like?
Yeah,
well, they're doing it in Japan.
USGS and like geological surveys and stuff.
Well, I often hear that every so often you see a company come around that like quotes that number. There's like such and such amount of precious metals in seawater. Like it's like.
Oh yeah, right.
And they're like, we have a machine that can like take the seawater and like extract such and such an amount of gold, and the ratios are always different or whatever. But they're like, do you know what? Like, and then they do the similar conversion to your mint story where they do the conversion and they're like, well, if there's this much gold in like a glass of seawater, think about if we mine the whole ocean. And then they're like, oh, there's like so much gold in the ocean. And I'm like, yeah, well, I've never actually seen it come to fruition where people are like coming up with these miracle machines that are like gold mining water stuff.
So amazing. Speaking of a cool business to work in, let's get on to our last one.
Yeah.
So is mining asteroids in space a far-fetched idea? Like that pun? NASA actually doesn't seem to think so. You know, according to the space agency, it costs about $10,000 to get 1 kilogram of material into orbit. So the idea of mining resources in space could actually make for a very attractive alternative. But contrary to popular belief, everyone, prospective miners won't be searching the skies for gold, nickel, cobalt, or platinum-rich asteroids, lassoing them and bringing them back to Earth anytime soon. Instead, the first thing mined in outer space that everyone's kind of predicting will quite likely be water.
Water, yeah.
So water itself can actually be broken down into its individual constituents. So everybody, that's hydrogen, that's oxygen. That can be converted into rocket fuel, which is in itself the most precious commodity in outer space because it's used so much. Being able to refuel TV or communication satellites, for example, would save operators millions and millions and millions of dollars every month. Right.
Yeah, well, it's like having an unlimited supply of fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where's the water? Well, it's on the moon.
Yeah.
You know, in 2010, impact data from the L-Cross mission, they uncovered water in a permanently shadowed region near the moon's south pole.
I've heard
Dark
that,
side of the moon.
And then they recently also find some on Mars, too, or like frozen.
Yeah, they're finding it everywhere.
There's space water.
There's space water.
Yeah.
And so alternatively, water on asteroids could also present an opportunity for future, fueling stations, a little stopover on your way into deeper parts of space. So that could be actually quite helpful as well. Now, the challenge now would be to find a more effective means of drilling the lunar and asteroid surfaces to test for this water to see if it's actually there, which is something that Sudbury-based Deltian Innovations, Sudbury-based, those guys, is working towards. David Peary, our T&M writer.
Our layout manager.
Layout manager. He writes too.
Yeah.
And he wrote an article about that on March 4th. It's called Space Mining Ready for Liftoff, if you want some more information about that. But other news you may have heard of recently, NASA recently announced plans to visit an iron-nickel-rich asteroid called Psyche? Yeah, in 2023. And that asteroid right now is located about 3 times the distance away from the sun as is the Earth. It measures 200 or so kilometers in diameter and is thought to represent, get this, the metallic core of an early planet that lost its rocky layers due to violent collisions billions of years ago. How cool is that?
It's just a massive piece of nickel in space.
Well, yeah, it's like the core of a planet.
Yeah.
And so NASA, their objective is to study the asteroid, and from that maybe we can learn something about our core on Earth.
Oh, so they don't want to mine it.
Well, this is that. So since they've announced this, it's like all in the news. Everyone's talking about in the media that this asteroid contains 10,000 quadrillion dollars in iron value alone, and bringing it to Earth would cause an economic Armageddon. But
It would.
It would cause an Armageddon. Maybe not an economic one.
Yeah.
But it would cause definitely an Armageddon of some kind.
It's fairly large.
Because space researchers say that mining asteroids for iron or precious metals isn't in the cards because we don't have the technology to bring it back to Earth. Obviously,
Bruce Willis.
Guys, it's simple.
You need Bruce Willis.
We're serious. I read New Scientist every week, and they're always saying how they're trying to figure out ways to blow asteroids up and get it away from Earth.
Don't bring them closer.
Don't bring them anyway. But what you can do, and what researchers are pointing towards, is that NASA or whoever it is can actually strap rockets onto these asteroids and then propel them towards the moon and throw them into orbit around the moon, which is apparently relatively easy to do, just as long as you don't run out of fuel, because Lord knows you don't want to run out of fuel going down that highway towards Earth.
No, I wouldn't imagine so.
No.
Yeah.
So even still, at the same time, people forget. And unless my loyal listeners of the Geology Corner, they won't forget, because they would know that gold and precious metals in asteroids isn't relatively evenly distributed among all the asteroids. Because how those metals are created is through a very special process, right, that we covered in a previous podcast.
Our interstellar edition.
Yeah, guys, it's so interesting. Yeah. So how it's created is not evenly distributed, so we don't actually know how much precious metal are in these asteroids. So we need to actually test them. So at the end of the day, however, if there is a nugget of gold floating in the universe, or like that wonderful planet made of diamonds and an asteroid from that, I give everybody my full go-ahead to lasso that thing, throw it into orbit around the moon, and mine the heck out of it, just as long as I get a little part or a big part, however much you want to give me.
Leslie's calling dibs on some of the diamonds.
Dibs.
Yeah,
Dibs.
there you go.
And that, my friends, is the future of asteroid mining and some of the most unusual and, quite frankly, some absurd mining projects that you've heard about.
But have fun.
Have
at
a great
PDAC.
time. Stay hydrated. That's my big thing.
Drink water.
Seriously, it's the elixir of life. It's amazing. It will just bring you back.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, yeah. Thanks for listening to this week's edition of Geology Corner.
And welcome back to studio. So that was a blast. We always have fun with those. As always, if anyone does have any ideas or concepts for Geology Corner, we're always open to exploring specific topics. Or if you have really funny stories, we always love those as well. We'll try to do more of our sort of countdown lists of funny pranks at camp and things we've done previously. Let's get into our company content for the week. I had a chance, as mentioned, to have a chat with Craig Lindsay, president of Otis Gold. We were talking about their Kilgore deposit in Idaho, which has been drilled by a number of companies, most notably probably Echo Bay, which contemplated starting a rather small heap-leach open pit operation at the site. But Otis has been working the project since around 2008. In 2016, they had a 43-hole program over 10,300 meters, which was largely focused on their sort of newly discovered Aspen corridor, which Craig will get into in his comments. There's currently around an 800,000 ounce resource there at under a gram. That's in both the indicated and inferred categories. So they're looking to increase the grade and the size of the deposit. But following the results from this program, Agnico did wade in with, as we mentioned, around a 10% equity investment in the company. So obviously they've been impressing the right people. Craig also mentioned to me that they signed quite a few confidentiality agreements following the program, and that there are quite a few gold producers out there looking for exposure to the U.S. At the earlier stage. So some interesting interesting sort of insight there. But I'll let Craig speak for the project. He gets into a little bit of the sort of geological modeling behind the new zones and the new exploration techniques they're using at Kilgore. So yeah, let's get into that, and I'll be back on the other side just to wrap up.
I mean, last year was a fantastic year for us, and it was on the heels of that small but very successful drill program that we completed in 2015. When up in the northern part, at the northern end of our deposit, we did a small kind of 3,000 meter drill program and knocked out some very good numbers of 50 to 100 meter intercepts in the 2 to 4 gram range. The best one was that 94.5 meters of 4.21 grams per ton. But we also had kind of 47.2 meters of 2.4 grams per ton and 50 meters of 4.24 grams. So that really got things going. And all of those holes that were drilled in this area that we call the Crab Claw in 2015 and were announced in January of 2016 ended in mineralization in this underlying Aspen unit, which is a sandstone formation that's underlying the existing 820,000 ounce deposit. And it's in an upfaulted horse block. So everyone's always looked at this Aspen at Kilgore and not really bothered too much with it for two reasons. Number one, it's underneath the main lithic tuff host unit, which is the host to the 820,000 ounces. So it's a little bit deeper, and then also the metallurgy isn't quite as good. In the lithic tuff, we get 80% gold recoveries at 1.5 inch crush, and in that underlying sandstone unit, the Aspen, we generally get about 70% recoveries at 1.5 inch crush. Open, it's heap-leach, less oxidized than the lithic tuff. And if you go back to the 90s when Echo Bay was out there, these guys were going after a shallow open pit heap-leach target. So they drilled down through the lithic tuff, and when they'd hit this Aspen unit, even though almost every hole they drilled into it ended in open-ended, 1+ gram per ton mineralization, they just didn't spend any time developing it because they were going after the shallower open pit in a $350 gold environment, and they liked the lithic tuff because it ran a little bit better. Well, in 2015, when we hit into the Aspen, it was in an upfaulted horse block that runs the entire length of the deposit on the northern side of our deposit and really the downslope side of our deposit. So this sandstone unit that's been upfaulted is closer to much closer to surface. In fact, we get mineralization starting at 70 meters. So that drilling in 2015 really turned the lights on for us, and we decided to go back and look a lot more closely at this underlying Aspen unit. So the drill program in 2016 was, entirely focused on attempting to drill out a resource in this Aspen unit that's underlying the deposit. And so we're in the process of updating our resource estimate that's ready by the summer. And that will actually lead into, we plan to finally get a maiden PDA done on this. And I think that's going to be justified with a larger resource. That's not just a larger resource, but we think we're hopeful we can bring up the grade on it based on all of the higher grade drilling and thicker intercepts that have been completed in both 2012, 2015, and more importantly in 2016. Well, it's an investment holding for them. There isn't a formal, technical services agreement between the two companies, but I can tell you that the Agnico Eagle folks out of their Reno office are just top-notch exploration guys. They spent a lot of time on due diligence over a fairly protracted period of time. They've developed a very, very good relationship with our technical guys in particular, and we really are hoping to lean on them a little bit for some advice, some guidance, and some input on what we're doing. They like the project, and what's brought them to the table, I think, is the potential that they see in this Aspen. And secondly, we've always talked about some of the other targets that are out at Kilgore that have the same geologic signature that we see at the existing Kilgore deposit. And some of the targets we talk about are Gold Ridge and Prospect Ridge. And now that we've demonstrated size potential at the Kilgore deposit and the potential to increase the grade, the other targets become a lot more compelling.
Welcome back. And I'd like to take the opportunity to again thank Craig Lindsay from Otis Gold for joining us to discuss the Kilgore project in Idaho and recent investment by Agnico Eagle Mines. Sounds like it'll be a busy year down there in 2017, so we'll keep our eyes peeled for news coming out from Otis. But once again, we're near the end of the show, but I just wanted to say I hope you're having a great PDAC. And do stop by our booth again and check out our team. Say hi, pick up a paper. That's booth number 3318 in the Investors Exchange. And while we're on the subject of PDAC and the Northern Miner, you may have caught, if you surf by our website today, a new announcement where we unveiled the Canadian Mining Symposium in London. This is an event we will be putting on in partnership with the PDAC, which is supported by the High Commission of Canada in the United Kingdom and the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. So this will be happening on May 9th, 2017. That is a Tuesday at Canada House on Trafalgar Square. And one of the big sort of announcements we made today is that we have some really good featured speakers, and that includes Robert Friedland and Lucas Lundin will be in attendance to give some presentations and have some more interactive chats. So it's going to be a really good event. So I just wanted to draw everybody's attention to that. Please do surf by northernminer.com. You can check out some of the details about the Canadian Mining Symposium there. It's a pretty exciting event, so we're looking forward to it, and we're really proud to be putting it on with both the Government of Canada and having such great partners and also having such great speakers. I think it'll be a really good event for everybody involved. Some of the other sponsors include the TMX Group, the Northwest Territories, PwC, and also our partner InfoMine. So that's going to be a really exciting event. Do surf by, check out some more details on that if you're interested. I believe there's still sponsorship opportunities open, so that might be a chance if you're looking for an opportunity to celebrate Canada's 150-year anniversary and promote the mining industry abroad. I think we are still looking for partners to jump on board and attend the symposium. So that would be a pretty exciting event, I think, and it should be awesome. Yeah, so that sort of wraps up our show. Before we depart, I'd just like to remind everyone to please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, rate us on iTunes for the podcast because that helps out a bunch, and do check out our YouTube channel for some exclusive video content. I once again hope everyone has a great time in Toronto. This has been Matthew Keevil with the Northern Miner Podcast, and I will talk to you next week.